All right, lads, I want to take you back to my observations of where this country is compared to where it was 20 years ago when it comes to the budget. Now, all governments, all persuasions, and, let's be honest too, the demands of the public and government to fix everything has seen these crazy explosions. Again, we'll show the summation for you. Remember, population is up 33%, but explosions in how much they take, how much they spend, how many people they employ and the cost of it. Massive, mind-blowing numbers that are there. James, I showed them to you before the show, so you were previously shocked about half an hour ago, but feel free to reenact for me now.
I'm shocked, Paul. I'm so shocked. No, but it is actually really, really shocking. And actually, the number that really stood out to me was the migration number, the population number, that our population has grown by 1/3 in 20 years. So it's basically like the amount of time I've been in this country here. We've grown by a whole third. And that explains why so much about the place is different now than it was when I got here in so many different ways. But then also the other thing, too, that is shocking is just the huge ambit of government over our daily lives. Yep. And that, to me, is really shocking. The worst thing, I think, here that we see is just the way the government has become absolutely addicted to our money, to pay people. The only growth in employment now is in government and government-related sectors. And our income tax, they keep taking more and more of that every year because they refuse to index the tax rates, and because anytime you try to do any sort of meaningful tax reform here, which the Henry Review and all these other reviews have said, people say, oh, no, the big end of town might benefit. You can't have that. It's the big end of town. What's a nonsense? It's hurting our competitiveness. Productivity is the thing we need to focus on. And, of course, we will hear not one word about that tomorrow.
Well, and this is the thing where, Matt, obviously, government's going to clip the ticket. It keeps, the rate of which a little higher, a little lower, but the amount of tickets they get to clip means there's this huge amount coming in. But, OK, it's not like they turn around and say, well, with this huge amount of money, we're going to go off and rebuild every hospital in the country. We're going to, make sure that the Bruce Highway, they're talking about, they should be talking about an upgrade to the upgrade as opposed to, fingers crossed, we might be able to get it theoretically if somebody carries the one. But when you look at it that starkly, and again, I understand inflation, we adjusted for that. They're going to say it's about the size of GDP and all the rest of it. But the fundamentals that say the total number of government agencies has increased by 86%, I think the point's clear, right?
You're absolutely right, Paul. And when you do look back on that last 20 years, what you'll find is that government spending tends to ratchet up at times of crisis when, of course, governments and politicians like to ride to the rescue and spend your money thinking that they can solve things. And we saw one of those events at the start of that 20-year period, or not long after it, when the global financial crisis hit and Kevin Rudd got out the chequebook. And then we've just seen and been and lived through another one during COVID. I mean, the shocking statistic there is that you put up there that total spending, government spending, has gone up 130% in 20 years. Well, when you actually look at just the last 6 years, so the 2018-19 budget, the last budget that was unaffected by COVID, we spent around $478 billion a year, around $500 billion a year of your money. This last budget just gone, this budget year we're in now, we're up to $730 billion. It's been a 50% increase in 6 years. So of that 130% increase over 20 years, almost half of it, not just a bit under half of it, has actually occurred in the last 6 years. And surely a goal of any decent, sensible government right now would be to try and get spending back down. I mean, do you think government services were that much poorer 6 years ago? Are they 50% better today than they were 6 years ago? We don't have COVID anymore. We're not paying JobKeeper. We're not paying all these other schemes. Why is spending staying at this elevated level of $700 billion a year? Way above inflation and compared to what we spent just before COVID.
Well, and again, great pull on the numbers there, guys. And again, what Matt's saying about how much of that's changed in the past few years. But again, go back to 2005. Anyone who lived it, everyone who remembers it, the streets were not lined with with homeless people. It wasn't like, oh no, sorry, we only just now started Medicare, where if you've got cancer, somebody will take care of you. This was not some sort of Dickensian era, right? And again, I get it. We can't all jump back into the time machine, but the idea of just reminding everyone that don't be distracted by the rubber ducky, focus on the water. That's like that frog in the pot analogy, remember? Which, of course, is that if you had to put your hand into boiling water, you wouldn't do it. But if they slowly boil it while you're in it, you end up boiling literally. So, James, again, you sort of touched on it, but I don't think there's an attitude or for people to accept a radical reduction in
Well,
government, is there? Because of that, dare I say, triangle of dependence.
Sure, and and this is the problem. The other week news poll ran some numbers, and they said to people, as a proposition, do you accept the idea that increased government spending and more government spending is going to lead to inflation and interest rate pressures? People say, yep, absolutely, completely agree with that. That's a perfectly sound economic sentiment there, Paul. And then the next question. Do you still want your handout? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so, this is the thing. And I think that the real problem here that we've had is that Peter Dutton hasn't gone at all towards breaking the cycle of dependency on this. When Peter Dutton went against the voice referendum and he said no, and everybody said, you can't do that, you can't say no, it's popular, everybody loves the voice, the media loves the voice, you get slaughtered, and he just said no, and he forensically demolished that. And he needs to very quickly, because he's running out of runway, explain to people, we can't keep doing this.
Well, what about there are 1,300 agencies, that's 86% more than there were 20 years ago. We are going to, whatever, that's the way to talk about it, as opposed to the work from home and the individual numbers, but we'll all see what happens.